Welcome back to Sprague of our Homestead. Today on our Top 5 Tuesday, we're going to talk about 5 things new homesteaders get themselves in trouble with. So one of the big things to really consider when you start homesteading is that you have to define your vision. What is your homestead going to be in 2 years, 5 years, long term, even 6 months? A lot of new homesteaders get the zest for homesteading and they run out and try to do everything and anything, and they really don't know what it should be in a time frame.
And that doesn't mean that your vision doesn't evolve over time. We've done stuff differently. We've moved directions in goats, we've moved directions in rabbits, but overall the fundamentals of what we wanted to do as far as a garden and chickens and turkeys and goats and rabbits has pretty much stayed the same. I know when we first moved here, we never really anticipated doing our own hay, and then we ended up buying an extra piece of property and adding a hay field on. So it's okay if the vision changes, but you ought to have a starting point, a place to go, and a place to kind of work towards. The next big thing that a lot of homesteaders, new homesteaders, get themselves into is trying to take the cheap way out or taking shortcuts. There's a lot of times that cheap is awesome. I mean, we repurpose a lot of stuff. I'm the queen of looking on Craigslist for a good deal for sure, but there are times that you really just need to suck it up and do it the right way. One of the biggest things I see people looking for all the time is used fencing. And I can tell you from experience and knowing a lot of people over the years who has bought used fencing, it's never the good deal you think it's going to be. A lot of times it's not as many feet as you think it is. It's not in the best shape. Maybe it's got holes. You can't tell because it's been in a roll sitting out in somebody's field forever. There's just times that you need to do it the right way and just go ahead and pay for it. Another thing is like in gardening, I see a lot of people using used tires for raised beds. Do your research here a little bit, and we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. Cheap is not always the best way, and if you're going to inadvertently give yourself petroleum poisoning, maybe that's not the best way to go about it.
So now, as Nikki mentioned about research, a lot of times we see new homesteaders that get real excited about stuff and they think it's a great deal and they go out and buy it, and then they get it home and realize they really don't know what to do with it. That may be fencing, projects, tools, animals. There's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of information, and most time everybody jumps forward and goes and gets something when they really haven't researched if it's going to fit, if it's going to work, if it's really what they should have bought, and what are some of the risks with having it. So take your time, Google is your friend, and do a lot of research on the front end. There's no reason that you can't go out there and spend 2 months researching a breed of goats, a breed of dogs, livestock dog, rather than going out and buying one that's a great deal and getting it home and the dog barks 24 hours a day.
And they do.
And they do. When you didn't realize that because you didn't research. You just thought, I need one, and I didn't really look at anything. So do the research. It doesn't hurt you.
And we see this the most probably in livestock. Everything from, I've seen people that don't understand why their chickens that are 2 months old aren't laying yet. To people who get American guinea hogs and butcher them and are just surprised that they're mostly lard because they're lard pig. Power equipment's another one we see that a lot of. A lot of people rush out and buy a tractor and then try and do stuff with it and find out that they bought a tractor that is grossly undersized. So research, man. There's a lot of information on the internet, and yes, you have to wade through because there's a lot of bad information, but spend a little time, do a little research. Don't always be so quick to jump on that deal because you might find out that it's not the deal you thought it was. So the next one is going too fast and doing too much too fast. I will fully admit that I have done this on a number of occasions. It's tempting when you get started homesteading. You want to do everything. So I know my first year that we really started doing the homesteading thing, back when we still lived in Mississippi, we had chickens, ducks, turkeys. I started making all of our own bread, doing all the laundry outside. I still had a full-time job at this point, and we were trying to put in a vegetable garden, which in the south is a very busy prospect because everything grows out of control all the time, and it's very hot, and you have to water about twice a day to keep everything alive. And yeah, you know, it's easy to get in over your head, and you want to do everything, right? Because we want to be as self-sufficient as possible, so we want to do everything, and we want to do it right now as homesteaders. And sometimes you got to pump the brakes on that stuff just a little bit and slow down. So we went to a rule, at least as far as livestock is concerned, that we can add no more than one new thing a year. So, you know, we've had the goats now for a few years, and we've had dogs and all the rest of it. And so now we're talking about finally doing pigs this year. And even then, right now, we're so busy, I don't know that we're going to get to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing on gardening. We'll do an update later in the week, and you can see the size of our garden and how big it is. And it is a big garden full of raised beds. And I can tell you in 5 years, it didn't start that way. We have steadily added every single year, because if I had tried to do all this the first year, I probably would have driven myself insane. So slow down. There again, like Kanan said, define your vision first and take it by steps. You don't have to do everything today. A lot of reasons why homesteaders get burned out is they try to do too much too fast, and they feel like they fail at everything. So slow down. Get one level of mastery, or at least where you're comfortable, before you go on to the next project.
And now, as Nikki said, with going too much or doing too much too fast, a lot of times people have really high expectations. The internet is full of success. It really is. You can look on Instagram and YouTube, and everybody honestly only wants to tell you about the success. They don't want to really be humble and tell you they screwed up, they went too fast, they failed. They don't know why things are happening, and it's easy to get lulled into really a false sense that homesteading is really easy. Anybody can do it. It's all over the internet. Look how successful everybody is. And it's not the truth. It's really not.
I'm one of these that is totally guilty of this all the time, and I have this guy to kind of rein me back in. There are days where I feel like I have failed around here because I didn't get everything in the garden, and I didn't get my milk stand built yet to milk my goats, and I didn't get the trays clean in the rabbit barn. And he has to look at me and say, look, did you make progress today? Did you make progress towards the vision, towards the goal? And if I can answer yes, hey, that was a success for the day. So you got to kind of rein those expectations in. You cannot do everything all at once. I haven't made my own loaf of bread in 2 years. There, I've admitted it. I have failed on the bread making part of things. Can I? Yes. Do I have time most of the summer? No, I really don't. So you can't do everything. Don't be afraid to admit that you can't do everything. We're just people. You do the best that you can, and you go on with it. I don't make my own bread anymore. I feel like a weight has been lifted.
All right, so there are 5 things that new homesteaders, and I'm just going to say homesteaders in general, do that gets them in trouble. You got to define the vision. You've got to know what you're doing and when. And honestly, you've got to take it slow. It sucks. I know. You want to do everything today, this week. And a lot of times, a project you say, that's only going to take me a week. It ends up being a year later, and you're like, didn't we do this last year? Yes. You started something last year, and you've got to do it. So take it in steps. That's what you got to do. You've got to make progress, whether that's this much or this much. You've got to make progress every day. And sometimes progress means nothing died today on the homestead, and I got a full belly at dinner time.
That's true. So count your wins, not your losses. We've talked about that before. That is what this is all about. Remember, it is a marathon. This is not a sprint race. This is a lifestyle, not just a destination.
Remember, don't make the same 5 mistakes as most people. You're better than this. That's it from Sprague Homestead.
Happy homesteading.